What if I told you the world's most exclusive parties, from the temples of ancient Egypt to the palaces of Rome to the hills of Hollywood, were never just about pleasure?
To me, it would be a form of contempt.
Behind the laughter, the wine, the whispers, hid rituals of power, manipulation, and control.
They canceled me for talking about Harvey Weinstein before the thing came out.
These weren't just gatherings, they were gates. And once you stepped through them, there was no turning back.
Look here, young blood, we don't cry about they should be. We just thriving what is.
This documentary peels back the velvet curtain from the blood-soaked feast of Sekhmet to the gilded orgies of emperors, from the shattered career of Fatty Arbuckle to the dark secrets of Diddy and Epstein.
Would you please state your full name
And Jeffrey Edward Epstein.
We're not just telling stories of sex and scandal. We're uncovering a coded language of power, where who you knew mattered less than what you were willing to do.
No, not Holly. No, not them. Yuck.
This is the story of how sex became a weapon, and the party was never just a party.
Is that two niggas kissing?
These weren't just freak-offs. They were ceremonies, initiation, access bought not with money, but with obedience and flesh.
Diddy, Ye are into a certain type of sexual lifestyle. They're trading women.
What began as rituals became currency, and from these currencies erupted scandals. This is the history of Hollywood sex parties. Sex parties, or now more notably freak-offs, have been traced in history as far back as 1470 BC, when Egyptians would engage in the Festival of Drunkenness, where they would honor the god Sekhmet. The Egyptian lion-headed goddess of war and healing is best known for the myth in which he nearly destroyed humanity at the command of Ra, the sun god who sent her as his divine wrath after humans betrayed him. Consumed by bloodlust, Sekhmet's destruction threatened to wipe out all life until Ra tricked her by having beer dyed red to look like blood. After drinking it, she became drunk and calmed down, ending her rampage. This festival was to honor the warrior goddess Sekhmet. It was dubbed as one of the most raucous rituals in Egypt during the time. This event was full of frenzied dancing, drinking, singing, and of course, unorthodox sexual activities. More familiar to the masses would be that of the Roman rituals. The origins of what we now may call sex parties in ancient Rome weren't about mere hedonism for its own sake, but deeply entwined with the brutal realities of control, social status, and political maneuvering. Imagine a private banquet hosted by a senator or an emperor. The food was exquisite, the wine flowed freely, and as inhibitions loosened, so too did the atmosphere. These weren't the wild public rituals often romanticized in popular culture, which the Roman state suppressed. Instead, these were often highly curated, exclusive affairs, a privilege of the elite. To be invited was a mark of favor, a signal of one's entry into the inner circle. To be excluded was to be a nobody. These parties were even equipped with medicinal attributes, such as a plant called silphium. The magical herb was used for perfume, seasoning, but more importantly, it was a known contraceptive. The herb was so high in demand, it became extinct. The desire outweighed the availability to that degree. Within these lavish settings, boundaries blurred. Sexual encounters were not just tolerated, but often encouraged, a deliberate breaking of public decorum. It was a test of loyalty, a demonstration of who could be trusted with secrets. For those seeking political advancement, demonstrating a willingness to participate, to indulge, or even partake in unsavory acts could be seen as a necessary step. It proved you were one of us, willing to abandon conventional morality for the sake of power. The figures of emperors like Caligula and Nero stand as chilling testaments to this extreme. Their reigns were marked by a shocking disregard for traditional Roman values, replaced by self-indulgent and tyrannical whim. Caligula, infamous for his erratic behavior and alleged incestual relationships, reportedly hosted orgies of legendary scale and depravity, using them not just for pleasure but to humiliate, control, and manipulate his courtiers. To refuse an emperor's invitation to such a gathering or to participate reluctantly could be a death sentence, a political career ender. Compliance was survival. Once in attendance, stories would detail how for both men and women present were all at Caligula's sexual convenience, whether they consent or not. Nero, another emperor synonymous with excess, similarly utilized extravagant and often morally transgressive gatherings. These events became stages for his own flamboyant ego, whose traditional social and sexual norms were gleefully upended. The line between consensual indulgence and coercion, particularly for enslaved individuals, performers, or those dependent on the emperor's favor, was thin to non-existent. The potential for rape was inherent in a system where power was absolute and accountability non-existent for the elite. Scandals, though sometimes suppressed or selectively reported, were inevitable. Whispers of senators caught in compromising positions, of emperors forcing themselves upon others, circulated through Roman society. These events, far from being private, were potent political tools for gatekeeping who belonged, for demonstrating absolute power, and for creating a web of complicity that bound the elite together. The party was a performance, a ritual of dominance, and a chilling reminder that for the powerful, rules were made to be broken, and morality was for the powerless. Throughout history, one can find examples that connect these sex parties to rituals, gatekeeping, and of course scandals. The opulent excess of Rome found a startling echo in the nascent glamour of the 1920s Hollywood scene. The silent film era, a blossoming dream factory, sold an image of wholesomeness laced with shining stars, but beneath the glittering surface, a different kind of party was already taking shape, laying the groundwork for a scandal that would shatter the industry's innocence and expose the raw power dynamics at play. Enter Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle, one of the biggest, most beloved, and highest paid comedians of his time. His joyful persona was synonymous with slapstick humor and innocent fun. He was adored by millions, a household name whose films brought laughter across America. But the admiration and immense wealth that came with stardom also brought access to exclusive circles and to a level of privilege that felt to some above the law. The pivotal event occurred over Labor Day weekend in 1921 at a party in Arbuckle's suite at the St. Francis Hotel in San Francisco. This was no casual gathering. It was a raucous, booze-soaked affair, a testament to the era's newfound hedonism. Among the attendees was Virginia Rapay, a young actress and model. What transpired in that suite became the stuff of legend and legal infamy. Rapay became ill during the party and died a few days later from a ruptured bladder. Quickly, whispers turned to accusations. Rapay's friend, Maude Delmont, accused Arbuckle of raping and physically assaulting Rapay with a piece of ice, leading to her death. The press, then as now, devoured the story with irrefutable hunger. The details, sensationalized and often fabricated, painted a lurid picture of Hollywood's depravity, wild parties, drug use, and sexual perversion. Arbuckle, the innocent clown, was transformed overnight into a monstrous villain. He faced 3 highly publicized trials. The first 2 resulted in hung juries, largely due to conflicting testimonies and the unreliability of Delmont, who had a questionable reputation herself that was ripe with an alleged history of attempted blackmail. The third trial, however, saw Arbuckle acquitted, with the jury issuing an unprecedented apology stating that a great injustice has been done to him. Despite the acquittal, Arbuckle's career was destroyed. Public opinion, inflamed by moral crusaders and yellow journalism, had already condemned him. His films were banned, most destroyed even, and he became a pariah. The scandal sent shockwaves through Hollywood, forcing the industry to confront its wild image. It ushered in the era of the Hays Code, a strict set of moral guidelines implemented by the studios to self-censor content and, more importantly, to control the public and private lives of its stars. This was Hollywood's desperate attempt at gatekeeping to ensure that only a sanitized, marketable version of the celebrity reached the public, preventing any further moral contagion. The Arbuckle Scandal thus became a dark blueprint, aligning itself more closely with the Rome of old. The parties continued behind closed doors, but now a veil of extreme secrecy and self-censorship descended, cementing the idea that for those in Hollywood's inner sanctum, what happened within their private walls stayed within those walls, protected by wealth, influence, and the terrifying threat of public ruin. It was a stark reminder that transgression, when exposed, could lead to exile, but when kept secret, it could solidify one's place within the powerful few. Do me one small favor before we continue. Please apply pressure to that subscribe button. Yes, apply pressure to that subscribe button.
What are you doing here?
I'm just working on some tapes.
Tapes of your own?
I've got a new album coming out.
Oh, and so you're
Very exciting.
do some editing actually. I have the feeling you should give each other a hug. I mean, we're talking about this.
We've been doing that all morning.
I know. Need any special invitation to do that?
Eventually, society would evolve to give way to a more formalized and often far more explicit institution dedicated to sexual freedom displayed. As the mid-20th century dawned, one name became synonymous with this new era of overt sexuality: the Playboy Mansion.
It reflects typically a little bit about me and a great deal about the fantasies and the fears and prejudices of our time, because my life has been so intimately interconnected in such a public way with the great guilts of American Puritanism, sex and wealth.
I read something you said that intrigued me. You said my life embodies the 20th century experience.
I think it is certainly one of the ones that does, yes, without question.
Hugh Hefner, the founder of the Playboy magazine, transformed his residences first in Chicago and then famously in Holmby Hills, Los Angeles, into a literal playground for adults. The mansion wasn't just a home, it was a brand extension, a physical manifestation of the Playboy philosophy that champions sexual liberation. But beneath the veneer of free love and endless parties, the mansion operated as a meticulous, controlled environment. Hefner was his undisputed patriarch, orchestrating the guest list, dictating the lifestyles of his living girlfriends and playmates, and setting the tone for the lavish events that drew Hollywood's elite musicians and aspiring stars.
How did you meet?
We met on the set of Playboy After Dark when I was working as, quote, atmosphere.
Being invited to the Playboy Mansion or becoming a playmate represented a potent form of gatekeeping. It granted access to a coveted social circle, a certain level of fame, and a direct line to Hefner's influential orbit. It was a clear, if often unspoken, rite of passage into a particular spectrum of celebrity. Yet, as time wore on and Hefner's grip on the narrative loosened, disturbing allegations of drug use, coercion, and abuse within the mansion's walls begin to emerge.
They oppress us as women. They won't let us be. And Hugh Hefner is my enemy.
Revealing a darker side to his promised liberation and highlighting the immense power imbalances at play.
I was followed in the beginning and later. I could not be out having an evening for myself. I didn't have my own money. He kept me away from other people. When we would go out together, we were treated like royalty. So that kept me thinking, okay, well, if everyone thinks he's so wonderful, then it must be me.
These patterns of allegations at the heels of gatekeeping, along with power plays, would be ongoing. This culture of indulgence, secrecy, and unchecked authority, nurtured in the shadows of Hollywood's glittering facade, created fertile ground for figures like Bill Cosby, Harvey Weinstein, and Sean Diddy Combs to operate with devastating impunity for decades. In Hollywood, immense power concentrates not just in creative genius, but in the ability to greenlight projects, cast roles, control careers, and shape narratives. For someone like Bill Cosby, whose public persona as America's dad was meticulously crafted and beloved, the private reality was a horrifying contrast.
My lips are sealed.
Mine too.
His alleged use of drugs to incapacitate women and subsequent sex parties or encounters were shielded by his towering cultural status, a loyal following, and a pervasive culture of silence. His power wielded to the point where he would even detail these escapades in hidden lines.
Spanish fly was the thing that all boys from age 11 on up to death, we will still be searching for Spanish fly.
That's right.
And what was the old story was, if you took a little drop, no, it was on the head of a pin.
That's right.
And
Drop
you put
it in
it in
a
the drink.
Coca-Cola. Don't matter.
It doesn't make it, and the girl would drink it, and
she's yours.
Hello, America.
If you give a woman, or a man for that matter, without his or her knowledge, a drug, and then have sex with that person without consent, that's rape. I think this country, any civilized country, should have no tolerance for rape.
Prosecutors in Pennsylvania announced that Cosby will be charged with aggravated indecent assault, a felony. This is the first criminal case against Cosby. In this case, a former employee at Temple University, a woman named Andrea Constat, claims Cosby drugged and then violated her at his home 12 years ago. She says Cosby was her mentor.
It's interesting. This is a situation that's unprecedented. My family, my friends, I have been in this business 52 years, and I've never seen anything like this.
In a dramatic case that grew from a civil suit deposition, Cosby was found guilty and sentenced to prison before the state Supreme Court would rule his verdict unconstitutional.
Bill Cosby is now free from prison. That's after Pennsylvania's highest court overturned his sexual assault conviction. The high court said an agreement Cosby had with a previous prosecutor prevented him from being charged in the sexual assault case, which led to his conviction. As a result, the court ruled Cosby was denied a fair trial,
freeing Cosby of charges, but never from the public ridicule that came with the details displayed by alleged victims.
Bill Cosby called me to inform me that he had finally written the role for me to be on his show, and that I had to come to his house and accept the phone call. He had made it very clear that he was going to blacklist me, that he was going to tell people that I was a slut and a whore and a no good talent.
If somebody said to you out there it was consensual,
That's baloney. That's baloney. I made it very clear that our relationship was professional.
Cosby's case spearheaded a Me Too movement that will become a significant weapon to rip power away from longtime heirs who would otherwise be untouchable.
$20 to take a cake, called a cab for me, and gave me $20 for the cab.
Right. To me, it would be a form of contempt from him.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't about, it's not about sex, it's about power.
Yes.
Right.
He's a predator. He goes after women.
The Me Too movement would turn out to be pivotal as far as creating a shift of power in the Hollywood culture. The same silence that served as a reward for those ambitious for power would soon turn into a questionable dagger against those wielding such power. The lines of who was a willing participant and who was an innocent bystander became blurred.
They canceled me for talking about Harvey Weinstein before the thing came out, but he offered to suck my penis in front of all my people at my agency. What am I supposed to do?
Next on the chopping block would be Harvey Weinstein, a kingmaker in the film industry, allegedly leveraged his immense influence to demand sexual favors. His casting couch wasn't a myth. It was a deeply ingrained system where his private meetings in hotel rooms or parties served as alleged opportunities for assault. His power to make or break careers, to grant or deny access to the very dream of Hollywood, created an environment where alleged victims felt compelled to comply or risk professional annihilation. Non-disclosure agreements, NDAs, became oaths, silencing those who dared to speak and perpetuating a system of abuse that spanned decades. The party, in this context, morphed into a pervasive audition, a coercive test of submission disguised as an industry gathering.
I was told that our friends would be meeting us there. We went up to the room, and shortly after that, his little entourage started peeling off one by one until there was just his assistant and Harvey and I in the room. And at this point, I was on really high alert. Like something was going down, and I knew it. And I turned to I assume he was his assistant because he certainly did everything that he asked for. Let's call him his sycophant. Okay. I turned to Harvey's sycophant and said, you know, WTF, what's happening? And he said he would go down to the lobby to check and see if my friends were there and having trouble getting up to the room. That was just the moment that I should have gone with him, but I didn't. I kind of froze and I was still trying to understand what was happening. He left and Harvey walked out of the room and came back in naked.
He came back naked?
Naked.
What did you say?
And he said that he wanted a massage. Could I give him a massage? And I said no. I can't honestly.
Halle Berry's walking by, and I'm like, oh shit, Halle Berry, bro. Fine. And it was like 4, 5 white dudes sitting there. Now Harvey Weinstein, he was one of them. And like, so I'm not in the front row. I'm in that, you know, it's like the front row, and then you got the little space, and then the first row after that, like, so it's like the second row. And they was sitting there talking about, oh, now she acting like she don't know us. She wasn't saying that when she needed that part. Every single one of them hit. I was like, no, not Holly. No, not them. Yuck.
They be having these big-ass mansion parties, and the mansion party, the whole mansion is a party, and then it's a separate party in the little rooms. I ain't been famous that goddamn long. I'm excited in a month to be at the mansion party. You be looking at all the goddamn rooms, and you around and look in the wrong room and Nigga, come here, come here. Is that 2 niggas kissing? Is one of them niggas Professor Obi?
Remarkably, the disturbing allegations surrounding figures like Cosby and Weinstein resonate with the prescient versions of Stanley Kubrick's final film, Eyes Wide Shut. The movie, released in 1999, served as a chilling fictional narrative exploring the hidden, transgressive world of the ultra-wealthy elite and their secretive mass gatherings. It depicted how powerful individuals engage in rituals of sexual indulgence and control, where the lines of consent are blurred by power and intimidation, and those who inadvertently stumble into this hidden sphere face serious consequences. This tale, visualized so deeply by Stanley, was rumored to be severely watered down after his passing before the film's release.
There were people who were outside of the theater who could hear inside of the theater Kubrick yelling at all the executives and saying, "It's my movie, you can't cut it. You can't cut my film, blah, 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 blah." Big argument going on. Then he dies like 4 days later. So somebody went in and finished the movie, but I think when they finished the movie, they hid the film. The movie got changed into something else.
The movie, though fictional, would echo real-life stories where these parties ravished with sexual orgies would also be a part of satanic rituals paying tribute to spirits and demons. Some unknowingly would potentially almost become a victim.
So we go in the car, we drive to the venue, we pull up, he grabs my hand. You know, the same thing he always says, look at me, don't look at no man. You know, an aggressive person that, super controlling. You know, the same routine. We walk in. So when we walk in before we enter the venue, of all the people and the cameras and all the family that's sitting down at the tables, this old lady was walking out, being escorted out, actually. A mature lady. She was like in the 70s or 80s year old. Had an entourage, and she stopped Aaron and I. She grabbed my belly, and I was only 4 months, but super skinny. I wasn't even showing. And she says, "Don't worry, your son is going to be all right. He's going to be healthy and he's going to be good," which we didn't know if we're having a boy or a girl. Then she looks at Aaron and tells him, "You know what? You be good to her and you protect her." And she prayed on us. That's God. God sent an angel right there because his whole demeanor changed. Because he was trying to get angry in the car. He was trying to start a fight, maybe to justify what's going to happen or was going to happen. You know what I'm saying? So the mood changed. People started moving towards Aaron and I, men. And then I said, ooh, it felt eerie. So within the commotion and people started moving towards, and you see the dudes, Pac runs. He runs towards Aaron, grabs up the girl and says, "Nobody can touch her," points to me. And he goes, "She's family. She's Aaron's wifey." I told you nobody fucking touches her. So I looked and I was like, my mind's like, what the is going on?
If Eyes Wide Shut offered a chilling glimpse behind the velvet ropes of the elite, the satirical yet profoundly disturbing party scene in the film Sorry to Bother You takes that concept to its most grotesque and revealing extreme. This fantastical sequence vividly illustrates the ultimate dehumanizing rite of passage for those seeking the pinnacle of corporate power, where shared, bizarre indulgence and complete dissolution of human boundaries become the price of admission to the ruling class. While the main character, Cassius, not only had to conform himself to be a bad example of his community, this was still not without having to attend a party that was ripe with public orgies through the rooms, complete with drug use as well.
Nigga shit, nigga shit, nigga shit. Nigga shit, nigga shit, nigga shit.
Look here, young blood, we don't cry about the shit that should be. We just thrive in what is, and what is opportunity.
This world, mixing sexual immortality with power moves, can be discovered throughout Hollywood. Sometimes these stories could be discovered in playful banter.
But really, Paul, it's really been a pleasure working with you, because we worked together many years ago on the Red Fox show. We started writing together, and we walked into the office with the white man, and Paul didn't. What he did was sucked his. But I must say, Paul had a sense of humor. He didn't let him come in his mouth.
That's my brother right here from day one. We used to wake up and, damn, pause, but like that's how. Back in the days when he was like 10 and I was a little bit older, his older brother, we used to fight over the Frosted Flakes. You know what I'm saying? Before pause was invented.
In May 2025, a federal RICO case imposed on Sean Diddy Combs would kick off, showing some of Diddy's most unorthodox habits, sending shockwaves through social media.
She heated up the baby oil to be used in freak-offs.
These sexual performances with male prostitutes, while Sean Combs recorded them, using the video, she said, as leverage.
All stemming from a CCTV video leak to the public, which showed unnecessary violence stemming from an ongoing party now known as freak-offs. Not only would this case place a magnifying glass on Diddy's personal life, but it would put sex parties or freak-offs himself on trial for the world to see.
He just comes in, I notice in his hands a purple top, so I use Astroglide so I can kind of make out he had Astroglide. And across the room, there was like a table with a chair. So he kind of sat at the table in the chair, and he sat there, and he would get up and kind of walk side to side and pace side to side, which you could tell he was trying to get better visual angles.
These freak-offs centered around Diddy and his unfiltered sexual desires, which would include threesomes, costumes, drugs, and baby oil. Lots of baby oil.
It was just a lot of rubbing oil.
The prosecutor would call witnesses to the stand that would tell stories of hours and hours of orgies and male escorts in and out, all to the desires of Diddy, who would at times threaten violence or even one's financial dependence at the news of any shortcomings. His case would echo that of Fatty Arbuckle, where witnesses would testify statements either filled with holes or have a background that would leave the jury in clouds of reasonable doubt.
I never saw such a cross-examination. It was very impressive to watch.
What was it about it?
I think just how the defense, got into her and really made her, look very not credible. I even wrote in my notebook that it was like a takedown.
Along with these stories, the world would find out that not only was this a sexual world more widely known than one would consider, but also he was probably a part of an even deeper circle. Some of the participants were also involved in other freak-offs outside of Diddy's.
Yeah, well, Diane, I can tell you that we saw Kanye West walk into the courthouse here right behind us this morning, and our team got a chance to ask him, are you here in support of Combs? He nodded his head. He said yes. And interestingly, his arrival comes just a day after we heard from Jane. She was on the stand for days, an ex-girlfriend of Combs, and she talked about a trip to Las Vegas with a famous rapper. She said that he's a friend of hers and that he flew her out to Vegas, and that when they were there, they were in a hotel room together, and about 6 to 8 people watched an escort named Anton have sex with another woman.
The end result would be Sean Diddy Combs being found guilty on 2 out of 5 counts. 2 counts of sex trafficking that may prove to change the execution of sex parties, but more than likely, not stop the complex, long-standing history of freak-offs.
There was sexual activity, but I mean, it wasn't really.
Was it forced?
No, it didn't seem forced.
Remember, this is who Daphne Joy tried to fight Diddy over and called him a pedophile. Kanye was with Julia Fox at the time. He was seen with 2 different women, and he was supposedly rumored to be having a threesome, or now you could think what that is. Daphne Joy goes to Kanye West freak off, and Diddy is messing with a new girl that Ye just had a threesome with, all in the same 6-7 months. Diddy, Ye are into a certain type of sexual lifestyle. They're trading women.
Would you please state your full name?
I'm Jeffrey Edward Epstein, and my residence address is 6100 Red Hook Boulevard in Virgin Islands.
Do you maintain any other residences presently?
I have vacation homes in New Mexico, Palm Beach, New York, and Paris.
In the midst of Hollywood scandals, there will be one to produce the epitome of all sex parties. Epstein not only had parties, but an entire island drowned in secrecy of the world's most elite.
Have you ever been convicted of a crime?
Yes.
What was the crime of which you were convicted?
2 counts. 1, soliciting prostitution.
Bill Clinton. Nice guy. Got a lot of problems coming up, in my opinion, with the famous island with Jeffrey Epstein.
Showcasing the attendance of power, stemming from Hollywood to royalty to the White House.
Did you in fact commit those acts?
I'm going to invoke my 5th Amendment right.
A story surrounded with conspiracies, rumors, tragedy, and cover-ups.
How many times have you solicited a mayor for prostitution?
Same answer.
A story that the world will never fully know.
Cam, could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable.
Thank you for watching this documentary. And if you really like it, you'll like my other short form and long form documentaries that you can find right here. Well, anyways, you know how we like to end our videos over here at Moxy Approved, right? With that water. I'll see y'all here next time on Moxy Approved.